Hey guys, Sally here. I'm the drone girl. You're watching me at the New York City Drone Film Festival. I'm not actually there. The odds are actually pretty low you're actually there either. I'm recording this from my house here in San Francisco. And what's really cool about these events is that we can all be here together. The barrier to entry is so low. Now, we don't need to all be in New York. We didn't need to get on a plane. We didn't need to figure out a hotel room and commuting there. And I love in-person events. They're among my favorite things. But 2020 has been a really great year to connect with people online. I'm so glad that the New York City Drone Film Festival decided, even though they postponed their event, to go through with it online. There's such an awesome community. This year has been super hard, but the one thing really getting me through is you guys having such a great drone online community. So I'm excited to be a part of it. Those of you who don't know me know that I sort of have my own online community. I run a website called The Drone Girl. It's a site all about news, reviews, tips, anything you need to know about drones. It's probably on my site, or at least I hope it is. But one of the things that you'll see on my site is a lot of drone stories, and those stories typically come from pitches from people like you. People want to pitch their business, they want to pitch themselves as a drone brand. Maybe you're an FPV drone pilot and you want to drum up some following for your racing. People are always trying to pitch themselves, and I will tell you, 99% of the pitches I get are so bad. But 1% of the pitches I get are great, and that really helps me do my job. So I want to help you know how to craft the perfect drone pitch. Now, this is not pitching your business to an investor. This isn't pitching your business to someone who might be a potential client. This is how to pitch your business to press. Now, this is key. The way you pitch your business to press is going to be different than how you talk to an investor or how you talk to a client. So I'm going to go ahead and walk you through it right here. So first, before you go ahead and craft your pitch, I want you to start by asking some questions. First off, what is the goal that you're trying to do here? When you want your business or your brand written about in the press, why is that? And there could be any number of reasons, and honestly, any reason is a good reason. It could be how to acquire new clients, maybe you want to sell more products, you want to make money. That's cool. That's okay. Many people pitch press because they want to grow their business somehow. Acquiring new clients, selling more products, and a story in the media is a great way to do that. It could also be to build up your SEO. You have now my site linking to yours is good for building up your brand. Maybe you want to establish yourself as a thought leader. You want to get invited to speak at drone conferences. You want to win those awards, and often a great way to do that is to be written about in the press. Someone says, oh, these journalists thought this person was a good thought leader, so they must be. If they were good at, worth writing about, then they must be a worthwhile person. Whether or not that's true, I don't really know, but there you go. From there, I want you to think about what problem needs to be solved. When you're pitching your business, there needs to be some sort of problem. And it doesn't need to be a huge, finding the cure to coronavirus type problem. It can be something really simple like, there aren't enough people out there who work professionally as drone pilots, or, it's really hard to take drone photos at night, something. It doesn't need to be crazy, but there needs to be a problem, and then from there you need to be able to provide some type of solution. You don't need to be God and have all the answers, but you need to be proposing some way that you establish a problem and at least maybe a hypothesis of what you think a great way to fix it would be. From there, I say set up your online presence. If you don't have an online presence, you're probably not going to get written about. If you message me and say, oh, I'm really awesome, I'm going to look at who you are. And if you're a photographer, I want to make sure you have an Instagram or a Flickr or something like that. If you're trying to be a thought leader, I hope you have a website for yourself with your bio. So make sure you have your online presence, and then from there, craft your story and make your pitch. So I'm going to go ahead and help you do that right here with a little exercise. I want you to write your elevator pitch. Some of you might already have this, and I'm going to ask you to write it in a few different ways. So first, I want you to write your elevator pitch as a 200-word pitch. Then I want you to go ahead and write it as a 50-word pitch, quite a bit shorter. Then you can pause this, do it right now, that's okay. Write it as a 25-word description of your business. Now is actually when it starts to get hard. It's crazy. Fewer words is actually often harder. And actually, I think this is the hardest one for most people. I want you to write a description of your business as you would explain it to a 5th grader. Now, I want you to, pause, look at all of your pitches, combine them together. What does a 200-word one look like versus a 5th grader one? You're probably, when you're making your pitch, going to err on something closer to the 5th grader one. That's not saying that, journalists are dumb or people who read news are dumb, but typically in journalism, we like to write to an 8th grade level. And so I want you to have all the ends of the spectrum so that way you know how to communicate. And we're gonna go into that a little deeper. But once you have your pitch, I want you to figure out what your story is. And I think the pitch sort of sets up your story. The pitch could be actually selling your product, but I want you to think about what the customer actually needs. Focus on the outcome. So you might be trying to sell a product, and maybe you're trying to sell, a drone that can fly for an hour without changing its batteries. The customer doesn't actually need a drone that can fly for an hour. What they need is an ability to get data over a field that's 5 miles. They don't actually really care what does it. So your pitch for your business might be that your drone is awesome and can fly for an hour. But I want you to focus on your pitch to press what the customer actually needs, and that's uninterrupted flight time, so that way they can get better data. Really focus on the why. Why does someone need this? Don't just say, this is an awesome product, it can do all these things, here's the specs. These specs are unheard of in any other product, but focus on why someone might need these specs. Another note, I get a lot of pitches that are, this is the first X to X. So this is the first drone to have a beyond visual line of sight waiver. And then it starts to get really goofy. This is the first drone to have a beyond visual line of sight waiver that's issued to a university. Oh, this is the first drone to have a beyond visual line of sight waiver issued to a university in California. It gets to be real crazy. Generally, I'm going to say avoid that because that doesn't really sell me. I don't really care if you were the first person to do something unless you were like the first person to walk on the moon, but that's already been done. Going kind of back to that pitch is, remember, you are not a salesperson. The journalist is not a customer. So you would pitch something differently to someone who's buying your drone. They certainly care about the battery life and how much it costs. The way a journalist cares about going back to that initial problem. What are we trying to solve? The drone can fly over a field for multiple hours uninterrupted. The thing to remember here is the journalist is not buying your product. They're not investing in your product. They are the messenger of your story. So when you're pitching to journalists, I want you to keep in mind the best ways that you can help them be that messenger. Next topic, buzzwords. I literally saw this on Twitter and I died. Let me vertically integrate those organic synergies to scale for you. I'm crying, I have no idea what this means. And I'm not joking, I get so many pitches that have insane buzzwords. If any of your pitches have these buzzwords in them, talk to me first before you include them, because in 99% of cases, you should not have these. Autonomous. Everything that's a drone is autonomous, so I don't really know why you have this in your pitch, because isn't that the definition of a drone? IoT, Internet of Things. This does not mean a whole lot. Please just explain what the product actually does. Don't just say it's IoT. It's cloud-based. Again, like most things probably in the drone industry are cloud-based. It's a confusing term. Fully integrated, what does that even mean? Innovate, disrupt, I think are just kind of like cheeky, cheap words. AI, crypto, blockchain, tokenization. There was a long period when Bitcoin was really popular and I got a ton of pitches about like, this drone is the blockchain of drones. And I was just like, what does this mean? Like, don't do that. Yeah, I hope it provides actionable insights, but you don't need to tell me your product has actionable insights. And then probably the most cliche thing that I ever see is like anything as a service. please try to eliminate buzzwords. The reason why is they don't say a lot. Tell me what they actually do. Don't just have a buzzword as a cheap way to get out of the hard part of actually coming up with that good elevator pitch that you came up with earlier. Some other good tips when pitching to press. 1, choose your moment. So basically by this, you don't want to be sort of crying wolf. You definitely stay top of mind with journalists, keep communicating with them, but if you're pitching like every week, even like every month, depending on the company, it's just like, how many new products can you have? Like, save it for the really good one. If you end up in my inbox all the time and 90% of your pitches are bad, I'm probably already going to discount the one that's good. So really save your great story for when it truly is a great story. Next, do your research and shape your pitch towards that journalist. So what I mean by that is that you might pitch differently to one journalist versus another. So Drone Girl, we can assume that all of my readers are at least somewhat familiar with a drone if they're on my site. So you probably don't really need to explain that the way maybe like a USA Today reader is more of a general reader. They might have seen a drone, maybe their neighbor has a drone, but that's really all they know about drones. So you would explain something differently to them versus a Drone Girl reader. Likewise, maybe you're pitching, your agricultural drone product to a farm journal. They might not be familiar with drones, but they super know about precision agriculture, so you would pitch differently to them. Then the most important thing is, I think, what's your subject line? That's gonna catch my attention. I get hundreds of pitches a month, and often it's just based on the subject line. So honestly, the easiest subject line is just story idea and then what the headline of that story idea is. I've seen other things, but I think that's the easiest formula. Just story idea and then tell me what your story idea is. And it's totally okay to have what I call a BuzzFeed headline. So that really kind of over the top, some people might call it a clickbait headline. But I want you to catch my attention. So if you really say something about how awesome what you're pitching is in your headline, that's okay. And then the journalist can dial it down from there. They can say, this is too much clickbait. I'm going to sort of tone down what the headline is. But the key thing here is you want to make it as easy as possible for the journalist to cover the story. So coming up with that headline, that kind of framing for them is going to make it really easy for them to cover your story and increase the odds that they actually do. Journalists are kind of lazy and also super busy. So the easier you make it on them, the more likely that they're going to do what you want is tell your story. Other ways you can make it easy for them is in your pitch, include key details. If you're saying, we just got this big investment round, tell me how much was invested. Don't make me respond back and ask how much was invested because I might just not. Tell me how much your product costs. Tell me when it's release date is. Don't make me hunt down basic answers. I want to know who your competitors are. Include photos. Don't say, let me know if you want photos. It's like, yeah, every story on the internet has photos. If I don't want them, I won't use them, but it's not too hard to send me a link to a Dropbox folder that I can download them. Make it as easy as possible for me to tell your story. So, I wanted to talk a little bit more about subject lines. What you're seeing on my screen here is, this is terrible. This is my look at bad subject lines. So these are just like generally bad pitches, and I think they touch on a lot of things that we've talked about before. Announces technology alliance with RawView. Is that exciting for you? Do you care about a technology alliance? No. Two companies partner to pursue federal work. Okay. Is it a multi-million-dollar contract? Like, what kind of federal work are we talking? But pursuing federal work sounds snoozy to me. UAV pop-up lab. Like, is that a store that I can go to and buy stuff? Is that a store or a place where I can go test stuff? Like, what are we testing? Tell me what's exciting there. Using words that I don't know what they are, like a tilt pod, like, don't do that. Drones have a platform for good. I've seen that pitch so many times. Don't pitch me that. So these are just some rough pitches. The other big thing is I had you write your elevator pitch for your product, but I want you to keep in mind the best pitches aren't actually about you or your product. I don't want to be your salesperson. You're probably not paying me to write this story, so I don't want to be your free salesperson for you. But I do want to talk about really interesting trends that other people are going to share that are going to make me look like a thought leader. So pitch me trends, pitch me troubles, pitch me conflicts in the industry, and then go ahead and talk about how you fit into those conflicts. On that note, like, don't be afraid to say something extreme. I see so many people who pitch these really nice stories that are like, we're so excited to partner with someone. But, like, I don't really care that you're excited to partner with someone. I want something spicy. Like, there's a reason why people watch Bravo TV. They want kind of that drama. So give me something sort of quote-unquote extreme. So this is a great example. Skydio pitched something that I thought was super interesting. They were sort of in the midst of launching their new Skydio 2 drone, and when they did that, they wrote this whole other piece about DJI, and they said, quote, the industry as a whole is not healthy, referencing how DJI had this huge market share. And I'm just like, wow, like Skydio would come out and say that is like kind of cool. And so honestly, that story got way more views, way more interest than like, hey, Skydio has a new drone coming out. Because people want to hear sort of that spiciness. And you know, similarly, DJI also came out and said something spicy. This story that you're seeing on my screen came out sort of at the beginning of coronavirus when all these drone companies were talking about how many awesome things they were doing with drones. We're delivering medication to people, we're, you know, spraying, you know, antibacterial spray on cities to clean it, you know, all this stuff. People were like all trying to get in on coronavirus. And DJI actually came out and said, don't use our drones. They had this super spicy quote that they pitched me, while the idea is noble, there is risk. And I thought this was fascinating because of course DJI wants to sell drones and they want you to buy their drones and use their drones. But they said, you know, we don't actually want you using these in all use cases. It just makes for a much more interesting story. So don't be afraid to say something kind of crazy. My other tip is, when in doubt, always pitch data. It's a great way to talk about your company without just talking about a product. So I'm sure you guys are familiar with Drone Deploy. They do drone software for a lot of enterprise use cases like agriculture, oil and gas. And they pitched me this really interesting data set that said in 2020, flights jumped 74% in Q2 versus Q1 among users in energy companies. And to me, that's super interesting. It's saying, you know, even with coronavirus, people are staying at home, the drones are still flying. And it's also great because Drone Deploy is actually doing something. But, you know, they're not just like, oh, we have a new software update. They're, you know, they're still top of mind, and they're saying, you know, our product is so awesome, it's being used more. So this is a great piece of data. Even better, include a chart to go with it. So Kitty Hawk gave me some awesome data. They looked at how many of their pilots were flying which drone, and they found, you know, the Mavic Pro is the most popular drone model used by Kitty Hawk. And they took it a step further. They even gave me a free little graphic to use, because everyone, you know, people don't want to read a huge chunk of text. I'm a writer and I want you to read my text, but I fully realize you're not going to. You would rather just look at a cool graphic that breaks it down. So Kitty Hawk made it even easier. They did the work for me. And, you know, the kind of pro tip is that they put Kitty Hawk in their graphic. So now they're getting some brand awareness is actually probably what they wanted. So give journals a free graphic, sneak your logo in there, and then you get some free advertising for your brand. Next, when crafting your pitch is to stay topical and timely. So think about what the issues are in drones right now and tie your story to those issues. So, you know, I brought up that Skydio story that they were saying the drone industry was not healthy just when they were coming out with a competitor to DJI. Right now, you know, I would probably say the top stories are China-US trade tensions, remote ID, coronavirus, climate change. We just had crazy wildfires and Hurricane Sally. So if there's a way that you can sort of tie it to the news, it's always great. And if it, it doesn't have to be totally timely to the news, but also on the other end of the spectrum, don't pitch it if it doesn't fit into the news cycle at all. So for example, like I don't really want to pitch right now on how to travel with your drone, just because no one's traveling right now. So like here's an example is this agricultural drone company was trying to show that their drone can lift really heavy weights. And so they strapped a human in a Santa costume to a drone, which I thought was hilarious and like probably dangerous. Don't try this at home. And this I thought was hilarious, but what was kind of weird is they pitched it in March. So like stay seasonal. Pitch that in November, December. One company that's really good at staying seasonal is this company putting on this conference. They're trying to promote their drone videos, and so they're really good at pitching me. Here's some examples. In April, they pitched me all these videos on their site about what does your favorite city look like during coronavirus. That's kind of interesting. I think they sent me this like right before the season finale of Game of Thrones. It was videos of Game of Thrones sets shot by drones. So there's just already high interest in Game of Thrones. It's great for me because I am not really writing about Game of Thrones otherwise, but now my website can capitalize on the hype around this. Now I have a Game of Thrones story, and then, it's a great pitch. Some other best practices. I sort of mentioned this earlier, include photos. People are so visual. I know, some people like to keep the file size down because you don't want to email me like some massive file that's not going to download when I'm looking at my phone on the go. If your file is going to be massive and you're hesitant about that, just send me a Dropbox link so I can easily get the photos. Include a quote already. Then if it's interesting, I'll call you and follow up for more, but catch me with a sort of pre-written quote by like you, the CEO, something like that. Finally, explain your pitch in a few different ways. So going back to that exercise we did earlier, you can sort of give me like the 20-word pitch or even, fewer words in the subject line, maybe explain it in a longer iteration of that pitch lower down. Again, as I said, make it easy for press to hunt down your story or to write your story, so don't make them hunt you down for basic facts that you could have just included in an initial email. So I wanted to show you some examples of great pitches. Here's one is from a company called Flyability. Their drone was used to explore some of the deepest ice caves in the world. So Zach, he did a great job of catching my attention. I want to see what the deepest ice caves in the world look like. He didn't, super spam me with all these files to download, so instead he gave me links. So you can see, here's a link to view the entire press release. So he gave me a nice, this is basically 20 words. Flyability's drone technology helps scientists reach the depths of some of the deepest ice caves in the world. Great, 20-word pitch. If I want to read more, if I want to read the 200 words, I'm going to click on that link to view the press release. He gave me links to see the video. He gave me links to a PDF version because maybe he thinks I might like that better. Lower down, he gives me links to a set of images. He even told me the name of the photographer, who to give credit to. So Zach just made this super easy for me to write up this story. Thank you, Zach. Finally, online visibility is a must in 2020. You want to make sure you have a website. It's the only place online where you have complete control over the content. If you have a Yelp page, people can write whatever crazy reviews they want to write about you. But with a website, you control what goes on there. Do you want to have comments on there? Do you not? Do you want to have photos of you in a certain light versus not include other things? Set up a website. You also want to be on social media, but you don't need to be on all forms of social media. Decide which social networks work best for you. You really want to be authentic and memorable on social media, so you don't want to be just another generic drone brand, but come up with a voice. So for me, it's Drone Girl. It's me. And I'm not afraid to, give my opinion a little bit and say, this is bananas, or this is awesome. I'm excited to be at this thing, or this thing is crazy. Be authentic and be memorable. So have a cute logo, in my case, have a Drone Girl logo. Do something that makes you stand out. Then decide what social networks you want to be on. So you don't need to be on all of them, but if you're a photographer, you probably should be on Instagram. If you're someone who wants to be thought of as a thought leader, you probably want to be on LinkedIn, sharing articles, sharing stuff about you, or even, other stuff you find interesting to establish yourself as a thought leader. If you're someone who pushes out a ton of content, so for me, I'm a website that's always posting news or various stories, go to a place that favors content. So LinkedIn could be that, but I find Twitter and Facebook are a great place to do that. Again, be sort of cognizant about having a Yelp page. If customer reviews are essential for your business, then maybe you want that. If you're a wedding photographer, people probably want to see that. Get on, the Here Comes the Bride websites and get on there. It's really going to be specific to you. And that in turn helps the press realize, wow, this person has a ton of followers, or this person has, this steady stream of they've been posting drone photos on Instagram for the past 5 years. Even if they, don't have 1 million followers, I can tell they're consistent and they're actually practicing what they preach if they're pitching themselves as a drone photographer. That just helps the press write about you. And it helps with your goal if you're trying to get business or thought leadership, credibility, whatever it is. So I hope that was helpful in making you realize what goes into a good pitch, what goes into a bad pitch. As I said, I get hundreds of pitches a month, and most of them go in the trash. And honestly, they're probably not all bad pitches, but they didn't catch me with that great subject line. So focus on that. Focus on really what those 20 words are that you're gonna say, because that's sometimes all you have to catch a journalist's attention. Now, if you have any questions, any follow-up, I would be so happy to help you. You can email me at sally@thedronegirl.com. I'm always happy to consult with you on what your pitch might be like, give you an idea of if this is good, if this is catchy. But quite honestly, you don't need me. I always say just pitch your mom, pitch your neighbor, pitch your roommate. Say, what does this mean to you? And read out your pitch out loud to them. If they're like, whoa, tell me more. And maybe your mom is not a good idea because your mom will always say more. But tell your roommate. And if they're interested, that means your story is going to be interested, in which case, go with it. Anyway, thanks so much for tuning in. Have a great rest of the New York City Drone Film Festival. There's so many other great shows I want to catch. So thanks for tuning in, making time for me. I'll see you on the internet. You can follow me on Twitter, on Instagram, @thedronegirl. Check out my site, thedronegirl.com. And of course, you could always pitch me with your own pitches. Email me, sally@thedronegirl.com. Bye.